Hello, and thank you for joining us for episode 24 of the Nerd Herd Comic and Book Club. If you're joining us live right now, thanks for joining us. And if you're tuning in for the very first time and you're thinking, who are these people? We are a weekly comic book club for people who like to read comics. Every week we will take a story arc or a collected volume, which we all read along together, and then we will gather together every Wednesday for a live stream to share our thoughts, reviews, and reviews about that book. Of course, at the end we'll ask you for your score, and we'll see where it falls on our Nerd Herd leaderboard too. That's who we are. That's what we do. I'm joined by my co-hosts, but before we get to do introductions, let me remind people what we have been reading this week. This week we were reading Rise of the Midnight Suns, and this was from Marvel in 1992. There's various writers and artists on the book for this one. So there you go. That is what we have been reading. And as always, I am joined by their less Midnight Suns and their more mid-morning siblings. But these are my co-hosts. They are Phil from the YouTube channel Phil's Nerdyverse.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Slacher.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, mate. And we have Shane from the YouTube channel Dawn of Comics.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
And we have Scott from the YouTube channel Scott Shelf.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yay.
Yes, indeed. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you have all had a good day, particularly those over in Ireland. So should we meet the herd then, folks? Should we see who's participating for this episode? Let's have a look, see who's here. We've got Liam Cartwright. What's up, folks? Liam's joining us. We've got Tom from This Month in Movies. Good evening, you lovely bunch of nerds. How you all doing? Let the nerding begin, says Tom. Just scrolling down. We've got the noob in here. Sean's here. Evening, peeps. How are we all? I think we're doing fine. Scrolling on down here. We got our friend Firehawk. Firehawk's here. I know Firehawk's ready. I saw on Instagram that he's got the full set of Rise of the Midnight Suns. Comic Bound, he's joining us as well. Hey all. I'm scrolling on down here. I'm trying not to miss anyone. You know I don't like to miss people. We got Tottenham Gaming. Haters gonna hate. Daryl's joining us as well. Hey everybody. Hey Daryl. Thanks for joining us. We have the one and only Amy. Hey everyone. Amy's here. Just scrolling down. We've got Subshock, Evening Herd. I can't pronounce that, Subshock.
Well, I'm trying.
Phil, how was that, Phil?
I have no idea. I'll have the text and ask.
There we go. It just shows our ignorance. And we have my good friend. We have Coraline here as well. Hey, from Coral and Adam. Adam's joined as well. These are my actual real life people friends.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, no, you're real life people too.
I'm alive.
We've got Andy from Perpetual Comics. Good evening, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. How are you, my friend? And just scrolling down, it's just jumped on me again. Just when I don't want to miss anyone. We've got GP Venom. Howdy, Pete. Hope you're well, mate. We've got Samuel Taylor. We've got a fair few people in here tonight. Hey, Sam. Cool. I don't think I've missed anyone. If I have, shout at me and we will say hello properly. And Subshock is responding saying Happy St. Patrick's Day in Irish. That's what he typed there.
No, we could have guessed that, to be honest.
Yeah, we're not that smart.
No.
There you go. That's who's participating for this episode, Rise of the Midnight Suns. And we're going to need a synopsis, as we always do every week. And seeing as I chose this one, I think this one's on me, and I'm dreading this because this one seems a bit not very straightforward. So I've even got a visual aid to help me out here today. So there you go.
That's cheating. Oh my god!
You didn't say we could use the blurbs from the books for these.
Yeah, it's slightly cheating, but that's there for people watching live or on YouTube and Facebook. Now you can read that, but obviously if you're listening on the podcast, you're not going to know what that is. So the gist of this is that I think the walls between the supernatural realms are starting to collapse, and Lilith, who is I think the mother of demons, she uses that as an opportunity to gather hellish kids together, the Lilin as they're called, and they, in order to do that, they realize, I think early on, that they can be stopped by a certain group of people. So their plan is to kind of gather together and then try and take out those people one by one in order for them to kind of achieve what they want to achieve. How did I do?
Yeah, nailed it.
Better than
Your
me.
faces are telling me that's sketchy as hell, but I'll take it.
Oh,
There
you've
you
got
go.
someone not happy with you, Dean. You forgot to mention Beth.
Oh no, did I really?
Miss
Did I
Beth.
forget to mention Beth? Let
Yeah.
me just check then. We've had a few more. Just jump in here as well.
I know.
Beth, howdy to you if you're in here. And we have Sith Lordly here, just stopping by to say hi. Hope you're well, Sith. And I can see we've got the Grey Man in here as well. Howdy, Grey Man. So synopsis done, introductions done. We're going to start the conversation, and I think to kick us off this week, I actually wrote it down whose turn it was this time. And what's the matter, guys?
So my cat just almost knocked over my ring light. Sorry.
See, now that would have been better because we used to me dropping cameras, so it would have been nice that it happened to somebody else. So Phil, I think. Sorry, Scott. Go on.
I was going to say, before we get on, there's quite a few people in the comments asking, where is Shane?
Where is?
I'm in. We'll call it the storage room. It's the garage. I'm in my garage.
He has been banished to the other realm. That is all you need
Not
to
allowed
know,
in the
folks.
house anymore. I laugh too loudly. Sorry.
So Phil, we're never going to get this thing started, are we, at this rate? Phil, over to you, mate, to begin the discussion on Rise of the Midnight Suns.
There's one word I'll use to describe this book, and it's disappointing, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what it was. Like, I don't know if I built myself up to it, but I just felt very disappointed in this book. Lilith is a terrible villain. Like, she was almost pointless. I don't understand what she was actually trying to accomplish. Like, her main goal was to, like, kill one of these 9 individuals. It's going to stop her doing what she's doing. But she's not doing anything apart from stopping one of the 9 people. Like, there's no build-up. She's not trying to achieve any kind of power. She's kind of resurrecting her children to kill these one of the 9. It's like, but what are you trying to do? Like, what's your aim overall? I never understood.
Phil, I know St. Patrick's Day and the pubs are closed, mate, but don't take it out on Ghost Rider, bud.
I genuinely felt really disappointed because I was looking forward to this. Whenever it was picked, I said, yes, it looks really good. I love 90s art, and the art was splendid. There's no question. But the story, I didn't know what I was reading. I had no idea. She was woeful. If you consider Lilith against Madam Satan from last week and Sabrina, like, it's chalk and cheese. Like, this Lilith wasn't really very villainous. In fact, the most villainous person was Morbius, because he was killing humans, but yet he was a good guy. It was really strange. It's a strange book.
Shane?
The one word I would have used was boring. I was really bored, especially with parts 4 and 5. They were a slog. They were just so hard to get through. The Morbius issue was my favourite.
Yeah, me too.
Was that the third one? Or the second one?
Yeah,
It's a third.
the third one. But
Yeah.
issues 3, 4, and 5 were literally just to start new books.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need them at all. You could read parts 1, 2, and 6, and you'll get the story. It's fine. It was literally Lilith's going to send someone into these new books, so you'll follow it over to that book, fail, and then send someone to the next book, and then send someone to the next book. And then they'll show up in the final book for a showdown that lasts 2 pages. Before
I'm with you there. I don't think I'm at the extreme end that you guys are at, but I do totally agree that I think 4 and 5 were a totally different pace. Parts 4 and 5 in this, like 1, 2, and 3, I think started off strong for me. Like 1 and 2 definitely, and then 3 was kind of all right. 4 and 5, I struggled with 4 and 5, and then it seemed to kind of almost like a switch flicked back, and then we kind of closed it off with 6, and that was okay.
And I think it was issue 4 was that Dark Horde or Dark Hold.
Yeah,
and it was boring as well. Like, that guy with the worms, and I didn't really like the art. Even the art was different. The art changed. The writing was boring. That issue alone really kind of put me off the book. That's why I didn't enjoy the next couple after that.
I will say though, you saying about the worms guy, like I think the character designs in this were really good as far as the kind of monster, supernatural elements of Marvel go. I thought like the Worm guy was like, it was pretty gross. It grossed me out a little bit, especially the kind of combine that with the trippy visuals that you had. Like I definitely thought it was a bit icky. Yeah, Firehawk is saying I was a bit confused and maybe read too quickly. That's a thing I was going to touch on as well. Like I don't think you're alone there, Firehawk. I think lost the kind of trail a couple of times in this. Anyone else?
Oh yeah. As soon as I hit issue 4, because issue 3 I loved. That Morbius issue, hands down, was my favorite out of all 6 because he was killing people, but he regretted it every time, and he didn't want to, and then he was going to kill himself, and then he decided to feed on bad guys. He had an entire character arc in one issue, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But everything else the first 2, they were fine, with Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze, but then as soon as it hit the Morbius, I was like, yes, I'm down for this. But then the next issue happened, and it just came to a grinding halt, and I was just bored.
Yeah, like 1, 2, 3, and 6. Yep. Those were the issues to read.
Oh, most definitely.
4 or 5, like I just couldn't read it in one go. Like one thing, issue 4 was 40 pages long.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, this is 2 issues, and I can't be asked. Like that's just where it was. And then but yeah, like one was really good because we got introduced to the whole thing, and I've never read Ghost Rider before, and I had liked it, and it was cool. And then the Morbius one was awesome, and then the final issue was like a proper 25-page length, and was good, and it was a decent ending.
I think they kind of got it the wrong way around as well. I think they should have maybe done the 40-page for the last issue, because I felt that really, really rushed it. But just before we kind of get onto the writing and stuff, because like I got more to say about the artwork. Those issues 1, 2, and 6 were the best for the artwork for me. And coincidentally, that's because Andy Kubert was the artist for those particular issues. Andy Kubert, we were talking before show, he's the guy that did Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader with Neil Gaiman, and I think he did Flashpoint as well. That to me really stood out. Like if you put issues 1, 2, and 6 against 3 and 4, noticeable difference, not just in the writing but in artwork as well. For me, if
you look at Lilith throughout, the design, the design stayed the same, but the art for her in 4 and 5 was atrocious. She just looked like a egg. Her head just turned from like that demonic pointy thing to just like a big egg.
All I could think of was Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, like 3rd form. That's all I could think of.
We've got Sean here, the noob, saying the splash page of Morbius was my favorite piece of art. There were some. That's what I will say in this. The splash pages in this were amazing. Like they were, even in issues 3, 4, and 5, they were still great. The splash pages.
Yeah, my favorite pages from issue 5.
Okay, let's talk about the pages that we picked to kind of show some examples. Now, weirdly enough, right, Shane, you go first, and then Scott, you can pick it up because you guys chose the same page.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah, there you go. Over to you guys.
So I picked that page because
I picked that.
The reason I picked that page is because I thought this was when the book was going to pick up, because I was expecting a Blade versus Ghost Rider fight. Even if it was just a page or 2, I was really looking forward to that because Blade's awesome and Ghost Rider's awesome, and we just didn't get it. We got that one sort of hit, and that was it. And I was really disappointed. But I really did like that page, just of Blade just jumping in and just smacking Ghost Rider. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, this had the best visual impact. It was just great to look at. As soon as I saw the page, I was like, yes, this is the one for me. Like, colors are brilliant, lines are awesome, detail is brilliant. I loved it. I didn't think the same as Shane about, we're gonna get a full-blown 10-page fight or whatever, but I just went, yes, this is cool.
I would have settled for 2.
Sorry. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like, but I was like, that is to me the best page in that entire run. Just for detail and color, just looks great.
Yeah, Ghost Rider's face looks awesome. That skull.
You could frame that.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of the splash pages that we were talking about.
The depth as well with the chain. You can see it,
So
the layers of it's fantastic.
I had actually
Yeah,
screenshot a few different images, and this was one of them. I had like 5 or 6 to pick from. And I just
Yeah, same.
couldn't narrow it down. So I had this one as well, but I just chose
It was going to be this one, or when Ghost Rider folded Lilith inside herself.
Yeah, I think I'll show mine next, because I think Phil's probably got the most epic one here. The one I chose I was going to go with one of the big Ghost Rider splash pages, but I really liked this one, and I think this was from issue 2.
Yeah, it was early on. It was quite early on, because I did.
But this is
one of mine.
This is where Danny catches. You see a glimpse of him kind of walking between the dimensions, because that's Danny's trapped. You know, the Ghost Rider has completely taken over that form, and Danny's kind of locked in between different dimensions. But for me, like, the background art on that, I mean, that's just incredible. Like, I mean, for that to be background is just awesome to me. Like, the fact that it uses a very monotone look, yet there's all that detail in there, and that just screams like supernatural to me. Shane's getting in there for a closer look.
Yeah.
Seeing the very perky lady at the front there.
there was quite a few of that throughout the book, wasn't it? There was quite a few perky ladies throughout.
Yeah. We've got Firehawk saying he found all of the Ghost Rider art pleasing. I will say, like, when we were talking about like the non-Andy Kubert stuff, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's bad, but next to Andy Kubert's work, I think it does kind of put it to shame a little bit, you know.
I love the fact that Johnny Blaze always seemed to have a cigarette in his mouth. Quite like that. I don't know why.
Yeah, he did. Firehawk saying the demon at the bottom with that woman had me look more than once. Thank you and Shane. All right, Phil. Let's move on to yours, mate, because I think you've probably got the most epic one for sure. And you chose this one.
Yeah, this is the final fight scene, I suppose. For me, it's just I love like the kind of 90s era artwork, and this is kind of epitomizes it for me in terms of like. Just it's gritty looking, but has all the colors, has all the flames, the fire. You see Ghost Rider kind of, I don't know what he's trying to do, but you know, he's just driving through them all. And then you have the I forget his name, but he has the weapon, the Exorcist they called it, didn't it? The kind of big massive.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
and like I just think like even like I don't know, it's just really strange. It's just colorful. It's weird facial expressions. It's just 90s glorious goodness.
The guy in the bottom right corner looks so sinister.
Yeah, but also I don't understand what he's doing. He's one getting blasted, but yet he's still holding his 2 little knives. Like he's going.
Yeah, he's. I can't remember that character's name, but he was the doctor, wasn't he? He was the one that put. Wasn't he the one that put the meat guy back together? I forget what his name. Meat Market. That was it.
And like Meat Market. Hey.
Oh, we got Comic Bound saying giant 90s gun.
Yeah.
Yep. It wouldn't be the 90s of that giant guns, would it? You know. And we have Pablo Costa joining us as well. Some characters have their mouths open too wide. Aren't they worried flies will go in? It's pretty true. Oh, do you know what as well, folks? I forgot the banner again. There you go. There's the little banner across the bottom. I did it and I forgot it.
To be fair, the artwork throughout was fairly good, and even though the 3 different books, the 3 different artists. Or no, 4 different artists. They weren't too different. There was one that the issue that mentioned, that Darkhold one. That was the one the art really changed. Where the rest of them all kind of fit in nicely, almost.
Yeah, they were okay.
They weren't too similar.
Yeah. I did get the feeling though. Did you guys? Just before I say what I'm going to say, James from Comic Deal, he's joining us as well, and he says, "I like the way the colors are really pretty flat too. Like they didn't over-render anything back then."
Yeah, look quite natural.
Yeah, just before we go on though and talk about the writing and stuff, I loved all the colors in this. I think James is spot on there. Like I loved the garish 90s purple against bright neon yellows and stuff like that. Like you just don't see that anymore, man, and it was magical to see that. But did anybody get the sense, and I think you just kind of maybe skirted around the edge of it there, that this was kind of to launch those titles, like
There's no
Morbius.
I thought it was really
Yeah.
obvious, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. It just felt like
Because-
literally they were just to bring out 3 new titles.
because they were number ones. Night Stalker's number 1, Darkhold number 1, and Morbius number 1. Like, it was clear to see from, like, it had been like in their middle of their runs where that was like a tie-in or something.
Yeah.
But I don't blame Marvel, because that's how they launch some books. They do it now, even King and Black at the minute. They're still having random D-list characters.
Peter Ray Bill is out.
event.
Is out
Yeah.
this month.
Hey, don't you be picking on Bill, man?
I'm not. I love him. I'm happy he's
But
getting it.
But that's the point. Like, they're using these kind of events to launch a title, which is fine. I don't mind that, but just tell a good story first. That's, for me, as a comic book creator, that's the number one goal. Is tell a good story, and you.
I totally agree. Like, I don't mind it either. I mean, come on, they've got to make money, haven't they? You know, that's why they're in the business of making comics. But I felt that in this instance, like, the event suffered because of that. It almost felt like, particularly the Morbius one, that felt like a standalone story. Like, it wasn't really anything connected to the event. It was just like, right, we need to go see Morbius because he's going to be in it later in issue 6. But he's like got his own thing going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was all very loosely kind of attached. You know?
Because the doctor that poisoned Morbius, he was going to poison him anyway. So Lilith interfering in that wouldn't have changed the story. If you'd have taken out Lilith sending her son to poison the poison, you know, it didn't add or take anything from it. So it would have just been a regular Morbius issue. But yeah, it was still really good. It was still my favorite.
Yeah, I just felt it suffered a little bit because of that. You know, not that particular issue. I mean the overall event. You know, like, I think the
story was the worst.
I think it just disjointed it a little bit, because it was kind of saying, well, we have this event going on, but at the same time, all of these people have their own individual things that we're queuing up to run, and it just felt a little bit not overwhelming, but it felt mismatched at a point for me. And I think that might be where I did get a bit confused sometimes, because I was kind of like, is this relating to the event that I'm reading, or is this relating to that title particularly? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was really perplexed whenever I said the Morbius issue. They obviously went to New York. I can't remember where they were at the start, but they went to New York to get Morbius, and it just ends with them parting ways and nothing happened in between. Because I thought they were going to recruit him for a team to go and fight Lilith and her kids, but like, they just went and said hello, missed the big drama until the very end, whenever they found the doctor out on the ground out the window, and that was it. They just parted ways. It's just, what are you doing? What's the point?
I did like when Ghost Rider gave him the penance stare and found no lies there. And sort of just let him go on his way, because he was going to just, you know, eat bad people. So that's all I know.
I do like the idea of the penance stare, though, like, as a thing for a character like Ghost Rider. I do think that was pretty cool, that he could kind of make people see, like, their real selves, you know.
I feel like it was a bit of a one-trick pony, though, at the same time. Like I'm Ghost Rider, penance stare.
He's got a flaming chain as well.
Yeah, it's cool as well. But, you know, it's just like, you know, whenever he was going to get close to someone, it was like, all right, here we go, he's going to stare now.
But you see, the thing I find with this is that I don't know a lot about Ghost Rider, but he wasn't Danny Ketch. He was just the Ghost Rider, the actual spirit of vengeance. He wasn't, like, usually there's a bit of Danny Ketch, there's a bit of Johnny Blaze in there to kind of add more to the character, but it was literally just the spirit himself, if you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was the spirit. Yeah, it was the spirit.
They were separated type thing.
The host had his throat slit, so if he'd have turned back into him, he was going to die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know this Ghost Rider. I only know Johnny Blaze and the one from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I had no idea who this guy was. And then when Blaze was in the first issue, I didn't even get that it was Johnny Blaze at first, because I thought Ghost Rider was Johnny Blaze.
Because he didn't look like Nicolas Cage to start with, so I have no idea.
I just love the fact that everybody, like, had mullets in this as well. It was just awesome, and they had, like, that kind of, like, badass 90s tone, like the bit when they kind of, I don't know what issue it was, I can't remember, forgive me, but they go to the house to kind of hunt down, I think it's Morbius, and Johnny Blaze says Avon calling, and Ghost Rider, like, who is this Avon you speak of? Like, such cheesy kind of like 90s action movie lines in there. But I will say, it still works today. You don't kind of look at it and cringe. You kind of look, it's like, I suppose, rewatching a movie like Terminator or something. Like, yeah, it's dated, but it still works. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I do disagree with, though, and that was what Phil said at the very, very beginning, and that was, I thought Lilith was a great villain for me.
I don't know if
There wasn't much
Elaborate.
character development in her. You know what I mean?
I
It was
feel
just
like if she had a little bit of patience, because she was sending her kids because she was waiting for her strength to return. Like, just go to Hawaii and rest up and get your full strength, and then come and retreat everyone. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Don't rush. You've had all this time to think and plan. And
only
get
6
your
issues.
The thing is, if this event happened today, what they would do is they would have like a one-shot book of Lilith and her origin and her kind of background, which would highlight her strengths. I don't know what was her power. What was her? She just demanded and told people to do stuff. She did. What was her actual power? What was
She
her
was
threat?
the mother of all demons, weren't she? So she could sort of tap into their powers as well. Because when she gets her daughter with the vision, she uses her to see her visions.
I mean, did she use her, or did she just make her use her power? And just, I don't know.
Well,
Pablo is saying he preferred the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. He was reading Johnny Blaze in the 80s, and it all looked too much like 70s pop mysticism, even to my 7-year-old self. I kind of agree, but like visually, I think looking back on that, for me, I definitely got a slap of nostalgia from it. Most definitely, when you open that and you see all the colors, and that gave me a kind of nice feeling reading it. But I think, are we all on the kind of line with the art that we're saying that the art was better than the writing? Would that be wrong?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, hands down.
Correct.
Okay, so we all agree on that front of things.
Apart from issue 4.
Yeah, issue 4.
And to be fair, the writing wasn't bad writing. It was just the story, I suppose, the way it unfolded. But like that Morbius issue, I thought the actual narration and the writing dialogue of that issue was very good.
I think because it was a bunch of tie-ins and not just all just like part of the Ghost Rider run, it kind of did feel muddled. You know what I mean? Like it could have flowed better if it was all just, you know, Ghost Rider, one writer.
Yeah, I think I will say, and I was going to kind of save it for the final thoughts bit, but I think I'm just going to drop it in here. It's like I actually read the Ghost Rider run. So like, you know, like this kind of hops over different titles. I kind of carried on reading the Ghost Rider run, and that is about Johnny Ketch kind of, you know, lost in that kind of dimensional space. And I will say reading them both together does work a lot better than just reading these 6 event books.
Right.
I know that that's not going to factor into kind of what we're talking about here. We are talking about that event, but I will drop that in there for people as well. If you are thinking of reading this and you haven't already, it may be worth you reading that Ghost Rider run as well.
Would you recommend, like, you know, mixing both, or would you say like just reading the Ghost Rider run is fine? Or would you recommend reading those issue 1s as well with Morbius and Darkhold?
Yeah, no, I definitely read the events. I kind of read up to it's Ghost Rider issue 28, isn't it, where this starts? Yeah. So I'd read up to there and then kind of, you know, continue reading Ghost Rider and then read those events as they happen within that volume, because it definitely works better alongside. That's what I found. But just reading that as an event on its own didn't really kind of have the clout.
I think you could just read parts 1, 2, and 6 of this and get the entire story.
You lazy man.
I do feel like parts 3
Wars all
and
over
5
again.
are not needed. They're not, because it's literally just to show you the characters that are going to show up in part 6.
Yeah, because their stories didn't even have too much to do with the overall story. They had their own thing going on.
That's
and also, yes, yeah.
It's just, you know, it's just like, you know, they're letting people do these issue 1s with these characters and then going, yeah, but it's going to be in the Rise of the Midnight Sun run, so make sure you just chuck a little bit in there, you know, just do that bit. You can have your story, but just chuck that bit in.
But one of them even stopped a page early to tell you to continue reading in the next chapter, and then there was another page for that book, and I was like, "Well, I don't need to read that."
Are you referencing the Spider-Man part at the end where Peter Parker's there in the hospital and he says, "Oh, I must confront him as Spider-Man," and then you're kind of like, "All right, you're just making me go." That's why I kind of really felt like they were pushing those new titles on me when I was reading this.
It was just so out of place.
I think that Morbius run in the 90s done fairly well. I think it was,
Oh yeah.
I can't tell anything about Night Stalkers or Dark Cold. Never heard of them, so I assume they didn't do well. But I think Morbius.
Well, there was a comment in here from Paulo Costa who was saying, he said the rest of the characters didn't go beyond appearing in this crossover.
Oh,
so I'm guessing he's not referring to Blade and all of that stuff. I'm guessing he's referring to, like you've just said, the Dark Old stuff and all of that.
I really like the dynamic.
Not issue ones. Sorry.
Say again, sorry.
Were they just one shots or were they issue ones then? If they didn't appear after this.
Then.
Morbius wasn't a one shot.
No, not Morbius, but the other two.
Oh, I'm not sure about those. I genuinely had
they were 40 pages.
I had no interest whatsoever in that Dark Old stuff or the Night Stalkers. Just didn't really grab me.
The Night Stalkers, to be honest. I did like the dynamic between the three of them. I enjoyed that bit, but just issue 4 was definitely the worst one.
I think they kind of made Blade out to just kind of be a bit of an idiot. Like,
did he even have powers? Like, was he even a vampire in this story? It didn't seem like.
Oh yeah, it does, because it gives you his backstory and it tells you how he's in the mental institution because he believes that his mom was killed in childbirth by a vampire and that he's infected. Like, he goes through all of that.
Show anything like
there's
nothing to do anything with powers. So I was wondering if he was actually a vampire in this.
Yeah, they just totally relied on that exorcist gun, didn't they? Like, they totally relied on it. Anytime any bad guys come, they're just like, "Is it charged yet?" You know what I mean? Like,
and that's the thing too. It was the exorcist gun end up defeating Lilith, and I just think like she was very easily like when I was reading the last issue, and she was obviously killed before she was kind of, what was it that you described that she was forced into her own kind of.
Folded into
her own stomach,
which was cool, but she was already defeated by then, and it just seemed to end. Like, it just ended. Like, hang on, what's going on? It just ended.
Pablo's saying, he's saying, no, we had the Brazilian comics in Portugal. The licensor published only the number ones from those titles. They didn't keep publishing the other ones, only Ghost Rider and the Spirits of Vengeance. Okay. I think slightly different in Brazil there then. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I started off really excited with this, like super excited. I read issue 1 and I was like, because I didn't realize it was Andy Kubert doing the artwork, so I was kind of like excited. And then it kind of went me.
So was this the first time reading for you then?
Yeah, for me, I've not read a lot of Ghost Rider stuff. I tell you, I'm very limited for me, like when it comes to Marvel, on any of the kind of supernatural monster stuff. I'm not very up on that stuff. So this was kind of nice to be able to read something like this. You know, I know bits here and there, and I have read certain things. You know, so I'm aware of kind of like how Johnny Blaze stopped being Ghost Rider, how Danny Ketch became Ghost Rider, how both of them are brothers. Like, I'm aware of all of that stuff, you know. And you didn't get a sense of that. I don't think they mentioned that at all in this, did they?
No.
And to be fair, the kind of dynamic between the two also, I don't want to say it bored me, but it got stale. The fact that Johnny Blaze didn't want to be there the whole time. I get that. But they ran with it the whole time. Like, them two, I kind of, well, he's going here. I guess I'll follow him now. It's like, I do it at the start, that's fine. We understand what you're doing, but they kind of done it too much as well.
Even a bit towards the end of Johnny Blaze being like, "Why am I following you?"
But Johnny Blaze was that character that he was just that kind of atypical 90s, not bothered by anything kind of character, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a stunt rider, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was a stunt rider, and then he gave that up, and he runs the carnival at this point where we are in this.
They could have made it like a fun buddy cop cross-country sort of book, you know, where the two of them are going to collect all the people they need to fight Lilith and made it.
I kind of felt that it was.
No,
They
Did you
missed
know?
the humor. They missed a lot of the humor. Like in terms of we're thinking buddy cop movies, you know, Lethal Weapon, whatever. They missed a lot of humor between the two of them. I think if they had that dynamic, it would be worth.
Especially with Ghost Rider not understanding a lot of stuff, like him not understanding the Avon reference. They could have played up on that a lot because he didn't have Danny.
Yeah, but you're talking Ghost Rider here. Like, he's not really a comic. Like, you can't really do it like you know, see no evil, hear no evil movie. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's Ghost Rider.
That's what Johnny's there for. Johnny's there to be the comedic part of it. You know, taking the piss out of him for not understanding things, and just to make the reader and enjoy it a little bit more.
But again, Johnny Blaze is a main character himself. Like, he's not there for a comic relief. He was Ghost Rider at one point, and he fought the demon.
But he's not anymore.
One didn't.
So get in your lane.
But he does become him again at some point. Isn't it?
I must say, the first issue when we see Ghost Rider shoving those people in the mausoleum, I was so up for that. I wanted to see him torture people, and I love a good torture. So, you know, especially of a bad guy, I want to see that in my book. So
here he goes again.
I loved it. It was like all these people have spilled innocent blood, so they're going in the mausoleum, and if they die, they die. That's how it is. And I'm like, yeah, brick him up.
Yet he let, I still don't understand, he let Morbius carry on killing. You know, he knew he done the pen stars, he was telling the truth, but he let him carry on just because he promised, I only kill bad guys. Well, that's all right.
And he was telling the truth, so
yeah. But that's the thing. He said to him, like, you know, essentially he was just going to continue his work, wasn't he? Like, he was only going to kill those people who I think Ghost Rider would have sought vengeance against anyway, because they were, you know, they were evil people, weren't they?
Yeah.
You know, who was your favorite characters in all this? Because there was quite a lot of people in this, both heroes and villains. Like, who did you kind of like the most?
Morbius.
Yeah. For me, Morbius too.
He actually had an arc in a single issue.
And he looked cool in his new costume.
Oh. Yeah, you essentially got his origin story again, didn't you? In that issue, yeah. Scott,
I think initially first thought was Johnny Blaze. I did like him.
You like the hair? Is that
yeah, like, you know, like I just all I could think of was Johnny Bravo. Maybe that's why, but yeah, I did. I liked him as a character. Like, I have no idea who this guy is. I had no, you know, like until now, I didn't know he was taken over by. I didn't know he was Ghost Rider at one point and stuff like that. But I just
seen the movie.
Oh yeah, but you know, I was, I like the dynamic was fine between Johnny and Ghost Rider. Wasn't the best, but there was, you know, you did have the odd quip here and there, which was good. But
I can't remember the line now, right? And I wish I'd have took a screenshot of it, because it was my favorite line in the book, where he says something about his silence, and he makes just this such a kind of cliched 90s action movie. Something about like the silence will be the death of him or something like that. It was so shit and out of place. It became my favorite line of the whole 6 parts. I think for me, I'm going with Morbius as well. I think Morbius was my favorite character. Like Shane said, you tend to got a complete end-to-end story with him, and there wasn't a lot of confusion around his story. His story was pretty straightforward. So I think it was kind of no messing, likable as a monster villain, as a monster character. And again, very dubious about kind of which side of good or evil he falls on. So yeah, I kind of like that. Firehawk is saying his favorite was Blackout.
See, one person we haven't touched on, and it kind of centers around this person, even though he's barely mentioned, is Doctor Strange.
Yeah, what
was
like,
the point?
What? I don't get why. I get his plan. He's put in place, and it's him and Lilith competing.
Was he like this guy just pulling strings? Is that what he was?
I don't understand. He wasn't even doing that, but in a way,
I will try and explain it the way I understood it was. He couldn't fight Lilith himself because the walls between the dimensions were thinning, and them two using their magic together would have speeded that up, it would have caused the walls to collapse even further. So he then manipulated everybody else to fight Lilith for him. So there you go,
why
job
not
done.
just go to them? Like, why not just go to them and explain
Tell
the situation? Just be like, look, lads, I can't use my magic because it's gonna ruin everything. So you lot are gonna have to go find these people and twat at one. You know what I mean?
Because Shane, I think we had this when we read Maximum Carnage, and I forget it was it because it's the 90s, Shane. That's not how things were done.
Maybe Strange saw the 14 million and 6 different possibilities, and
that's what I was going to refer to. The fact that in Endgame everything was so secret with Tony Stark, so maybe there's something along those lines. But that was the only hint that gave of Lilith's power, essentially what she's capable of. But I just think there should have been some, even though I wouldn't have wanted it to be longer. I just think maybe we could have seen that. Maybe they had a battle in the past or something. Like, show us something that kind of show this is why Doctor Strange can't get involved. Here is Lilith's powers. You know, this could happen.
Her in the Garden of Eden, like start all the way back at her origin. You know, first female, Adam's wife. We see her get kicked out of Eden, start producing the monsters, and see what she can do. Because she doesn't seem to do much. She goes,
I agree with you, and I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that I don't feel that this is a very self-contained event. I think this is one of those where you do feel like you're missing out on a little bit. And maybe that's why it does work so well if you read that Ghost Rider title along with it. But just to check the comments here as well, we've got Paolo saying, when Stephen Strange asks people to do things for him, they usually say no. Best to manipulate them. And a quick hello to MJ Comics joining us as well.
And Doctor Strange as well. I know he was manipulating people and kind of pulling the strings, but he did come across a bit of an asshole. And I don't know a lot about Doctor Strange, and I know Scott will soon enough, and he'll tell us all about it. But I just think, like, I thought he was a nice guy, but he's not really. He's just not a decent person.
I think Doctor Strange has the cosmic universe at his best interest.
But he also has a god complex because he's a surgeon, so he's so self-absorbed. As an actual person, he's just unlikable.
Did I get this right?
I think he was before he became part of the mystic arts and stuff. I think he just has that all-knowing ability. So I think he's one of those kind of, like, you know, the phrase like God moves in mysterious ways. Well, so does Doctor Strange, because like he knows a lot of stuff that we don't, I guess.
Did I read it right as well that Marlene, who was one of the three fellas' wife, I can't remember his name, that was Doctor Strange done that to her purposely to get.
Yes.
In the coma.
Yeah, who put her in that catatonic state.
That's fine. That's what I was thinking, and I just thought, like, again, like what Shane was saying, just, you know, go and tell him. Don't like distraught his entire family and put his wife in a coma. It's just like, what are you doing? That's a bit horrible.
Yeah, and just for those that haven't read it, the reason why he does that is because he knows that Lilith will use that opportunity to attack while the wife is in that catatonic state. So then he can then send the Midnight Suns to kind of do battle with her. So yeah, you're kind of right, Phil. It's a bit of a shitty move to do to someone.
Also saying, like, Lilith put the 9. She wanted to kill one of the 9, but yet her actions put all the 9 people together at the same place that end up killing her. It's just it was pretty much right, I think.
You did a separate and pick one off, not add it all together.
Instead of trying your luck at the next one and the next one, just attack the first one again. And again, and again. Just send a different child after that one, and
learn from your previous.
It was a bit same in its approach, wasn't it? With her, she was kind of like, right, we're gonna go and I'm gonna send one of my, my brood off to take out one of the Midnight Suns, and then it didn't work. She's like, right, I'm gonna send another one of my brood off to take out another one of the Midnight Suns. It was pretty much the similar strategy throughout all 6 parts of this until we get to the big fight.
What was the one called with the severed head? I can't remember his name.
Creed.
Creed. He wasn't a bad guy. Oh, right, yeah, it was bad, but he wasn't like evil bad, because when they took Johnny's son, he was like, no harm's coming to the child. He was like proper calm, and he's like, we just want you. We're not going to hurt your kid. And then when one of his brother or the half breed tried to hurt the kid, he just like threw him out the way. He's like, no, I've said we're not hurting the kid. And then
he was
for it.
I think he just had enough, hadn't he? I think he was weary at that point.
He just wanted peace. He was like, when we first see him, he's like meditating and then he sent it. That scene was fantastic when he's meditating, and then he just sends his body to attack while his head is still there.
That confused me to start with. When I saw that panel, I was like, what is going on here? Because it's quite far away. It's pulled back, so the drawing itself is quite small. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, like there's nobody grabbed someone by the throat, didn't he? And his hand went over, and I was like, "That's really cool." To be honest,
yeah, he can detach various parts of his body and stuff.
That action figure would have been annoying because I'd have lost everything.
Oh god, yeah. Right then, folks, I'm going to do it.
Glasses are on.
The glasses are on, so you know what that means. It's time to do our final thoughts and scores. So let's go round and see what people thought and see what their score was. And all of you guys watching live with us right now, if you've read along with us this week, drop your score in the chat. You know how it works, and we'll take an average of your score and we'll see what everybody thinks at the end. So, Phil, over to you, mate.
I said at the start, I was disappointed, and I was. Whenever that was picked, I was so looking forward to it. Not having any kind of background with Ghost Rider. It's the concept sounds pretty cool. You've got that 90s artwork, which was pretty cool as it is. The first 3 issues, I mean, I loved half of the story. The first 3 issues were great. 4 and 5 really ruined it for me. And even with issue 6, back to the initial creative team, it didn't really pick it up again. It raised it slightly, but I was on a bit of a downer from the previous 2 issues. Overall, I don't understand the point of the story other than to launch 3 new books. I like the Morbius book, and to be fair, I would like to try and read some more of Morbius based on what we got from that issue. Art was good, story was let down. Some of the characters were good, some not so good. And again, just overwhelming disappointment because I thought this was going to be great. And unfortunately, because of that, I feel dirty saying it. I'm going to give it a 5. Middle
of the road.
I don't feel like I can give it more, to be honest.
Well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel, man. So it's a middle of the road for 5. Let me just check. Everyone, if you want to put your score in the chat, I'll make sure I pick them up for you. Don't worry about that. Shane, over to you, mate, for your final thoughts and scores.
Like Phil, I was looking forward to this. I love a 90s comic book, and when you see the covers, I was in straight away, and I read the first 3 issues straight away. Like, sat there one go, read the first 3 issues, started issue 4 right after issue 3, and I put it down, and I didn't come back to it for a couple of days because I was so bored. I didn't want to read it, and so I finished issue 4, and then I did the same with issue 5. I put it down, and I didn't read it again that day because I was, again, so bored. So it took me longer than it should have to read it. Art, fantastic. Can't fault 90s art. I love it. Pouches and all, everything's fantastic with 90s art. The story, like I say, built, great. First 3 issues, 4 and 5, boring as hell. Issue 6 was all right, but then it was, like Phil said, it was just to launch 3 new issues, and it didn't even conclude Lilith's story because she's fine at the end again. Like, literally, she's like, oh, hi, I'm still here. So what was the point of those 6 issues if you're not even going to get rid of her? So disappointing, boring, but I really like the Morbius and the first 2 issues, so I can't score it too low because I was really enjoying it. It was just the landing did not hit for me. So I think I'm going to have to go with Phil and give it a 5.
Okay, so that's a 5 from Shane. Scott, how about yourself?
The story for me fell flat at the majority of parts. Like we've said before, Lilith was just there, and I felt like she was just telling people what to do instead of doing things. Yeah, she grabbed someone out of herself at the end, but that was pretty much it. The one shots for me made the story feel a bit muddled, and maybe if you got all the Midnight Sun event bits from those bits, you could have just made like 1 issue. You know what I mean? Just got all them, made a 1 issue, and have like a 4-parter instead. But yeah, like issue 4, that's when the whole thing became a slog. I was, you know, I read some of this in work, and I'm telling people like I just cannot be asked to read this anymore, and that's how I felt. And that doesn't reflect well, and I'm sure it looks like a few people in the comments are pretty similar and stuff. So yeah, pretty much based on the art was lovely. I loved the art apart from issue 4. The picture I sent in, that's my favorite one. I think issue 3 was my favorite art. I just loved the lines. I think 2 as well. It was all brilliant. But yeah, but it doesn't bump up the score that much because I'm gonna go with the other boys, and I'm gonna give it a 5 as well.
It's a 5 from Scott there.
We did this last week where we all scored it the same and Dean had to go different. So
Don't do it. We've never had a week where we've all been exactly the same.
Don't give in the pressure, Dean. Don't give in to the peer pressure. Do what you want.
Shit it.
Join
Right.
us, Phil. Join
Let
us.
me just check what everybody's saying before we get to mine as well here. So we've got the noob Sean here. He's saying 4.5 was too messy. If it wasn't for the artwork, this would have scored lower. Liam said he didn't read along this week, but he's disappointed that Phil didn't name himself Philith. Good point, man. Tom said it was a sorry. I read 3 issues, 4 out of 10 for him, but it was a did not finish. He just couldn't read 4. We got a 5 from Firehawk. We have Comic Band saying unfortunately wasn't able to read this one. Firehawk is saying should go up 0.5 for the 6 great posters that connect to make one huge one. Does that mean you're upping your score by a 0.5, Firehawk? Plus, and Comic Man saying plus another 0.5 for the existence of the giant.
that was
okay.
Cool.
All right, there we go. That's what people are saying. If there's anybody else out there with a score, drop it in there now before I get to the end of mine. And I'll grab it for you. I'll whiz through mine quickly. I think I've kind of gone through all my points anyway. The artwork, I loved it, particularly in issues 1, 2, and 6. Because Andy Kubert was just amazing on Ghost Rider. The trippy, supernatural, grungy, punky garishness of that kind of 90s feel was just awesome. And, it's going to make me sound really old, but I am. And, they don't make comic books like this anymore. They just don't. I did feel that it was ruined by the fact that this was kind of like a flagship event for launching those titles. And I think it kind of, if they'd have made the decision on what was more important, the event or the launch of those titles, maybe things could have been done a bit clearer, but it just seemed like it didn't know what it was trying to be during those issues of 3, 4, and 5, particularly 4 and 5. And I got confused. I'll be honest with you. I got no harm in saying it. I got confused. It did bump me off the rails at several points, and I had to go, why are they saying this stuff? Like, I generally don't know. I did think Lilith was a great villain, though, and I would love to see more Lilith. But I do agree that there wasn't a lot of development of that character. Totally agree with that. But that's not to say that that isn't something I would want to see. Like, I really would like to see more of that. So yeah, I mean, the fact that it was discombobulated, it was kind of a bit all over the place and stuff. I mean, for me, I will put a caveat with my score as well. I'm going to give this a 6. But I will say it would have scored higher if we were talking about reading the Ghost Rider run alongside of this. It would have scored a lot higher. This would have got a lot lower if it wasn't for the art. I agree with what Sean said. This would have got a lot lower if it wasn't for the art for me.
It would have got lower for me if Morbius wasn't in it. If that issue wasn't in this run. That was hands down the best. Okay,
well, let's see what it all comes to then. Okay, so the guys participating along with this episode, we had 3 scores this week, and they average a 4.7. So that's where everybody that read along thinks this week. Average of 4.7 out of 10. And we gave this a 5, a 5, and a 5, and a 6, which gives us an average of 5.3. So let's just see where that falls on our Nerd Herd leaderboard at 5.3. That puts that in 60. That's 17th place.
Worse than Secret Wars. Oh my god.
We must be generous that first week we done Secret Wars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there we go. It goes in at 17th place, folks. But I don't think we're alone there. As you know, I'm surprised. I thought this might be one where I was kind of outdone here, but I think everybody kind of that's read along this week agrees. They've kind of scored it low too.
Take out 3, 4, and 5 and do this as parts 1, 2, and 6, and it would have scored higher because it would have been a coherent story.
A concentrated 4-parter. That's what I think it should have been.
Yeah, I think they let's be honest, they tried to squeeze too much into this, didn't they, with the launch of those new books and the event and the characters, and I think it was just too much.
Well, they didn't do much squeezing if they were 40-issue books. It was just
well, they did, because there were 25 pages for their one shot, for their issue 1s, and then 15 was a kind of tie-in.
Yeah. Okay, then, folks, we're nearly at the end, so I think we've just got some time to do a quick whiz round if you want, and let people know what you've got going on this week on your channels or other places in social media. So let's go this way around this time.
Okay. Earlier on this evening, I went on live with the Grey Man talking about my comic memories. So if you haven't seen that and want to see that, go ahead and see that. Also, we are 4 days away from the deadline of anyone wanting to submit their answer for the question for Comic Airwaves this month, which is, what would be your personal kryptonite? And I think I need to give a caveat for this because people have been asking, what, in comic books or real life? So I mean real life. Like mine would be like Snickers, you know what I mean? Or a fear or whatever, right? That would, like, what is your kryptonite? What's your weakness, right? But that's pretty much me.
There we go, folks.
Also, we've got a giveaway as well. If you want a chance to enter for the giveaway, go on my Instagram and do that.
Do you want to remind people again when it's on?
Yeah, 27th of March, Harper's Date.
There you go, folks.
I'm knackered.
Shane, over to you, buddy. What's going on over at Dawn of Comics?
Not much at the moment. I'm taking a break. I've had to stop reading Future State. I've still got some titles to finish, but I can't at the moment.
I thought you loved it.
I loved it so much, but my brain is just, every time I pick up a book, my brain just throws it back down again. So I'll get to it at some point, I'm sure, because I do want to complete the run. Obviously, I want to read every single one. You
do have the next quiz coming soon as well, don't you?
Yes, we're recording on Saturday, so that'll be fun. And I will just mention, not that anyone can do it, because I obviously made it too hard. There was a viewer competition on the last quiz. No one's entered. It was far too difficult. So this time round, I'm going to completely simplify it and make it as easy as humanly possible, just like with Hulk Word Smash, which is going to be a lot easier as well.
Super easy.
But yeah, if one person goes back and watches the quiz and finds out the answer and hits me up on Instagram, then they're going to win. So
there you go, folks, man.
Friday.
Get on that straight away. You can win some stuff there. Let me just say hello to TB as well. He says, sorry you missed the show this week. Just wanted to jump in and say hello.
Hello.
Shane, anything else from you?
Nope, that's me.
Phil?
I've been very lazy, as I've been for the last 3 weeks of my channel. I'll get something at some point this week. I am going to reappear on Shane's quiz. The real champion is returning. You know, I missed the previous one, and somebody else, you know, took that ball and ran with it. But I am back, and I'm coming back with a vengeance.
The spirit of vengeance.
I'm gonna win.
Face bothered.
It should be.
I'm so gonna lose. I'm under no impression
now that I do have a round that Scott has inspired. So
yes, Scott's round.
Does it have an advantage?
Does it involve body parts?
I don't know if he has an advantage. I've made it as fair as possible, but it has been something he's been asking for since the first quiz.
Don't like this. Don't like this. I mean, we need a, you know,
collusion.
Well, don't give too much away. Don't give everyone too much away. Phil, is that it from you?
Yeah, for now. Watch this space.
Watch this space for Phil then. As for me, I will be participating with the guys on the quiz, and I will be back next week, and I'll let you know what we're reading first before I drop some links for people. Next week, folks, we are reading Scott's Choice, and Scott chose to stay with the supernatural theme.
Ooh.
And we are reading Lock and Key, Volume 1, Welcome to Lovecraft. And this was from 2008. That's what we're reading.
25, that's a milestone, isn't it? Quarter of a century.
Yeah. So for those that are wondering, that's IDW that publishes that as well. Most people, I think, will be familiar with that book. But that's what we're reading, and I will end this by doing a few shout outs for people. So if you like this channel, you may like these other channels that I will drop the links in the chat there for now if you want to have a look at those. First one is It's Ben Pay. Go and check them out. They are a couple, and much like this show, they get together and they just talk about comic book series. It's pretty much like this, but it's just the two of them that have a conversation, and they're great. They're lovely people.
Awesome.
So yeah, go and check those out. We're going to check out another chap who is he's been around for a while in the comic book community. Go and check out Daz, the comic key chaser. He's a good friend. Go and check him out as well, especially if you like collecting. His videos are very useful. And the last one I want to give a shout out to is, I haven't given him a shout out for a while, but seeing as you were on his channel earlier today, Scott, we shout out the Grey Man as well. And there's a link in there to the video that Scott was on earlier today. If you want to go check out Grey Man's channel and see him and Scott have a conversation about memories. Scott, you're too young to have memories.
I know, it was all within the last 12 years.
Well, you are 13, so
Yeah.
There you go, folks. That is episode 24. That is what we all have found and made of Rise of the Midnight Suns from Marvel 1992. Hopefully we will see you next Wednesday for Lock and Key Volume 1. All that remains to do then, folks, is, Scott, do you want to tell people?
Yeah, just go. Get your waves out.
Sláinte.